the internet people. So thank you, those of you who came in person, because I love a live audience, every speaker does. And welcome to all of you in internet land. And today's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a review of the last 5 months. So just to be sure that you know, I'm Dr. Carol Roberts. I have a practice here in Sarasota called Good Medicine, and it's housed at Full Spectrum Health. And you can find us at bestmedicine.us. So remember that, not Canada, not Mexico, but US. And that's the website. You have the address and phone numbers there. So I love to teach almost as much as I love to do the new medicine, the old new medicine. And teaching brings me to this venue where I can tell you what I believe that works in medicine and what doesn't. I'm going to take this jacket off because it turns out it's pretty warm in here too. So we've been at this now for, this is the 6th month. So we're halfway through the year. And I want to just go over some of the things that we've talked about and give you some more material for your questions at the end. So the review starts now. So these are the topics that we've covered. First, we talked about the mind-body connection because we are so siloed in medicine that the doctor for the left foot doesn't talk to the doctor for the right foot. They don't speak the same language, and forget about the mind. That's off someplace totally different. But in actual fact, we have energy as part of our physical makeup. So we're not just chemistry, we're physics also. And we'll talk about the anatomy of that physics body. We talked about heart health in February, appropriate for the month, and the way that we look at it differently and how the connection with the energy body happens when you're talking about the heart. March, we did spring cleaning, so we talked about toxins all around us and detoxification. What does that mean? How do you do it safely? April was Brain Health Month because everybody's worried about their mentation and their abilities. And why did I forget my husband's name and what's going on here? So I have to tell you the joke now because I won't remember it later. 2 elderly couples go out to dinner, and then one old guy is talking to the other old guy and says, "We went to a great restaurant the other week about, what was the name of that? I can't remember the name." So he says to his friend, "What's the name of that rose that you give your wife on Valentine's Day, and that flower that you give your wife on Valentine's Day?" He says, "Rose." He says, "Oh yeah, that's it. Rose, what was the name of that restaurant?" And then May was longevity. So if we have good brain function and decent body function, we don't mind living a long time. So that was the last talk last month. So let's start with the energy body. So those of you who come here to Unity Church are probably familiar with the psychic energy and all that implies. The painting that I use, which you will see next, is by Alex Gray, who is a genius artist and incredibly accurate anatomist. And he did probably the single best painting of the energy field that exists. And it's useful for showing people what you already know through your own life experience, which is your aura. The acupuncture meridians are on this map. Our heart field has a measurable energy field probably extends, at least with our current ability to measure, at least 15 feet away from your body. So my energy field and your energy fields are commingling right now. And this may be why we have a feeling for somebody. We like them or we don't like them, even before they say a word, because we're already sensing their energy. So the aura that people talk about, all that woo-woo stuff, it's real. The chakras were described by the ancient Hindu philosophy, and we'll look at those briefly. Of course, we spent 2 hours earlier in the year. And how does this connect to illness of the physical body? So it becomes really interesting when we start talking about that, because illness usually begins in the emotional body first. Although it can begin in the physical body, accidents happen. One might argue that accidents happen because you're messed up emotionally. But even so, physical illness always has its correlate in the emotional body. So you really have to look at both, and one is more fundamental than the other usually. And so that's the emotional connection to illness. So this is Alex Gray's brilliant work. It's called The Psychic Energy Field, and it's part of his series called Sacred Mirrors. Each of these, there are 12 different paintings, starting with a silhouette of a human being against the background of the chemical elements, so that we come from the elements, but we're much more than that. And they're meant to be meditated on. So you would stand before each one and meditate on it, and then move to the next and the next. And so we'll see another one of his pretty soon. But you can see those glowing orbs that go up the central core of the body, where the spinal cord is, where the energy flows in an upward direction. And there are 7 of them. The first one is there on the, I guess I don't have a pointer here. Whoops, sorry. The lowest one is your sacral chakra, and that opens at birth, and it relates to your sense of security. So your sense that the world is a safe place. So that grows by nurturing through proper mothering or fathering or caring as a baby. And children who don't get that are really pretty damaged for life. They have all kinds of emotional problems later on that are extremely difficult to correct or treat. It can be done, and we'll talk more about that. But that's the sacral chakra. The second chakra, the next one up, happens during puberty. So it's a hormonal shift that brings emotional and mental shifts along with it. So you see the child morph into a young adult, and everything they think changes, and what they think about changes, and their voice changes, and the way they interact. So each chakra brings a blossoming of a new you, a new iteration of you. So growth and development takes place in the emotional body and the physical body. The third chakra, that green orb in the middle of the belly, is your power over the world center. It's your ability to navigate in your culture, in your family, in your world. And so it brings that kind of pecking order development where you decide if you're a powerful being or you're a weak being that needs to be picked on, and so on. So a strong third chakra will make you able to go out in the world and do what you need to do. The fourth chakra is the green one, right where the heart is. And of course, it's the heart chakra. And it relates to love energy, both giving and receiving, the ability to give love, the ability to open to love coming in from the outside world. And that one is the one that shifts us into the higher centers, which are the ones that are uniquely human. So all four that I talked about so far exist in higher animals as well. So you know your dog loves you. How do you know your dog loves you? Because it warms your heart. How do you know? Well, if you put your wife and your dog in the trunk of your car and leave them there for 4 hours, and you come back and open the trunk, watch who's going to be happy to see you. So you know your dog loves you. The next one up is right around the thyroid gland. So that's the 5th chakra, and that is where expression, self-expression, and artistic expression comes into being. And those are uniquely human. So when we sing, or when we dance, or when we cook, or when we create anything, it's through the 5th chakra. So, okay, and then the 6th chakra is out of this picture, sadly, but it's the 3rd eye. And that's right in the middle of your forehead. And that relates to your intellect, your imagination, and your psychic abilities. So how you know things that you don't know, you know, that aren't on paper or that you haven't learned, but you just kind of know. That's that center. So those are the 6 human chakras. The 7th chakra is at the very crown of your head, where the baby has a soft spot. And that soft spot and that chakra are where we connect to the divine, to the higher energy centers of the universe. So I'll leave it at that, it's enough. But when any of these chakras gets messed up, which they always do, we're human, nobody's perfect. The goal is to open all your centers and get the energy to flow freely. And in that case, you become a fully realized human being. And life is good no matter what happens. So we call that state enlightenment. And not many of us get there, but all of us would like to. So when one chakra is all messed up, let's say the 3rd chakra, in your gut area, you can get gut issues, you can get irritable bowel, you can get liver disorders, you can get kidney diseases, you can get all those types of symptomatology. And it's not enough just to fix the microbiome or fix the liver, give you a new liver. You really have to address the emotional issues as well. So that's where medicine comes in, good medicine. All right, so then February, we moved up to the heart center. First thing I say is forget about cholesterol. Cholesterol is such a simplistic view of the whole picture. Heart trouble begins when you don't love yourself enough. When you don't live a balanced life, where you're not taking time out for your loved ones or offering them or being generous. It's all about you. You're stuck in your 3rd chakra. I'm not saying that's everyone with heart disease, but cholesterol, again, is the simplest and the least important of all of those that feed into what we call heart disease. So from a medical / chemical point of view, it's about mitochondrial health. So the mitochondria is where your energy is produced in the form of ATP. ATP is the chemistry associated with energy. It's called adenosine triphosphate. And adenosine triphosphate is the product of your mitochondria. And there are probably tens of thousands of mitochondria in every heart cell. The heart and the brain use more energy than any other organs in the body, so they have the most mitochondria, and they require the most energy. So if your mitochondria are damaged for whatever the reason, usually it's poor nutrition, it's toxic exposures, it's inactivity, you're not using your muscles, you're not loving yourself and others, then you may develop heart disease. So that's an underfunded and underexpressed fourth chakra. So that's Alex Gray's. That's the cardiovascular system. Of course, it's the whole body, and it's life-size, but it's anatomically perfect, and I don't know how he does this. It's just astonishing. But that's what it looks like, folks. So then March, we talked about toxins, and it's sad to say, but we have nearly 100,000 chemicals that most of them have never been tested for safety on humans. And they're in use every single day. So when you take a receipt from your fast food joint, you're handling this BPA, I don't remember what it stands for, BPA, which is a hormone disruptor. So these kids that are working there and handling those receipts all day wind up infertile or having hormone imbalances or having all kinds of chemical related issues. Pesticides are carcinogenic, herbicides as well. Even the stuff that you put on your skin every day, if it's not Eminence products, it's going to have a lot of these chemicals in it, and they do sink in through the skin. The skin is porous to chemicals, so don't think that you can avoid it. And nanoplastics are the big thing now. So when plastics break down, they break down into nanoparticles, which are infinitely tiny, and we now have them in our bodies, and every fish in the ocean has them, and every creature on land has them. And what are they going to do to us? We have no idea. They've never existed on the planet before. So the best we can do is try to stay away from things. Make sure you recycle your plastic. That's the least that we can do. And hopefully our kids will figure it out. And maybe the bacteria will figure it out and decide that, yum, yum, plastics are for lunch today. And that would be great, because they did come from organic compounds originally. They came from fossil fuels. Plastics are made from oil. And so they were once natural, and we've done crazy things to them to make them toxins, but maybe nature can reclaim them at some point. So let's hope that's the case. Heavy metals, of course, exist in nature. They are natural, but they're not natural in refined form. So you don't find puddles of mercury on the ground after the rain, but you find mercury in your fillings in your teeth, and you find mercury in the fish in the ocean. So mercury is highly toxic. It's the most dangerous element that isn't also radioactive. So it's not radioactive, but it's bad for your brain, bad for your kidneys. So the body has no way to immediately dispose of these things. So what it does with heavy metals is it will allow them to bind to proteins in your tissues. So they're not in circulation all the time. So if a doctor wants to test you for heavy metals and sends you for a blood test, that doctor's not doing the right test. They do not circulate for more than 6 hours. So if you find something in your blood, it's because you have a recent or an ongoing exposure. In order to test for heavy metals, you have to pull them out with something that's kind of like a chemical magnet that's called a chelating agent. And chelation occurs in the soil, it occurs in nature all the time. It's the union of an amino acid with a metal. So, calcium gluconate is a chelate of calcium. So when we say chelation therapy, it's a form of chelation that's designed to pull these heavy metals out of storage, to bind them and to allow them to exit from the body. So chelation therapy is not new and it's not goofy woo-woo therapy. It was FDA approved back in the 40s because the sailors were getting very sick from using lead paint on the battleships. And so they had to invent a way to remove the lead from the body and not allow it to accumulate. So if you haven't had chelation and you're over 50, you should get tested, because everyone I've ever tested who hasn't had chelation is toxic with these metals. And they go to your bone marrow, they go to your liver, your kidneys, your brain, and everywhere else, and just cause havoc. One of the things they can do is mess with your mitochondria. So as your energy goes down, your metals are increasing. They also are carcinogenic. So we don't want them in our bodies. But then the next question is, well, when you're peeing them out, aren't they just going into the water supply? And the answer is yes. So there are many questions that yet need to be answered. So they're everywhere. People say to me, I see it in everyone. Lead, mercury, and cadmium are the most common. Cadmium from smoking cigarettes, and also arsenic from eating chickens. They feed the chickens arsenic to make them bigger. I don't know why. Mercury in fish and fillings, and lead used to be in gasoline additives, and paint, but it's still in a lot of things. So if you want to know where these things are, go to the EWG.org, which is short for environmentalworkinggroup.org. And they will tell you which fish are safe, which ones are the worst, and which cosmetics to use, and so on and so forth.
What was it?
EWG.
EWG?
For environmentalworkinggroup.org. They're doing the best research and they publish everything. So this was a headline of the New York Times one day, which I thought was great for this very talk, so I saved it for today. Okay, so then avoidance is number one, but we really can't in all of these situations. But open your pathways. So what are the detox pathways? Well, the kidneys for urine, the colon and the gut for stool. The skin is a giant organ that flakes off skin and also sweat. So both of those are pathways for detoxification. Your lungs exhale gases that we don't need. And your hair. So I don't know if any of you saw the article recently. There were two of them actually. One referred to Beethoven. They found a couple locks of his hair that were authentic, and they tested them. Beethoven had asked to have science of the future look into why he became deaf at the age of 30 and why he was so sick in his later years. He died at like 50, so he was pretty young. And it turns out that he liked to drink wine. It wasn't the wine that was the problem, it was what they used to sweeten the wine, which was lead acetate. And he drank a bottle of wine every day, so he was poisoned by lead, and his hair kept the record of it. So that's how we know. Andrew Jackson also very recently had some hair analyzed, and I think it was mercury that he died of. Mercury was a great medication at one time, and the doctors loved to give it to people. I remember growing up, we used to use mercurochrome. You remember mercurochrome? Yeah, guess what that was? So you don't find that anymore. So anyway, detox. So you can find many, many different ways to detoxify your organs, one at a time or all together. But please don't be one of those fanatics who detoxes ceaselessly all the time, because what you'll do is deplete yourself of the good stuff. So we have night and day on this planet. In the daytime we grow, in the nighttime we recover. Same thing with detox. Do it in cycles. Detox your liver. Give it a rest. Renew, replenish. Then detox your kidneys. Then detox your brain. But do it in cycles. And don't just add things. Take some things away. Give your body time to recover. And that's what I mean by nutritional support. Okay, so the brain is part of the body, folks. Guess what? Don't tell a psychiatrist that, because they will argue with you, or they'll think you're deluded in some way. So if you treat your body well, you're treating your brain well. So it's all about, nutrition and exercise. Keep your brain functional. You exercise your muscles, exercise your brain too. So challenge yourself. Do something that's a little bit out of the box. So I'm trying to learn my parents' native language now. At this point, they wouldn't teach it to me. They wanted me to be 100% American. So now I'm learning Hungarian. Not that I'll ever use it, but you know what? It sounds like home. I have the template in my head. I'm just filling in the words, popping in the vocabulary. And it feels good. So maybe you once wanted to learn piano or guitar or some kind of music. Do it. Do it now, even if you're terrible in the beginning. Everyone is a beginner in the beginning. So forgive yourself and do it anyway. Write that book, or just write a story or write a poem. Do what you've been wanting to do. If not now, folks, when? So just get out there and have some fun. Kick up your heels, go dancing with your friend, go out for a night on the town or a morning on the town or a happy hour, whatever it is. Just enjoy yourself and get some good restful sleep. So it's interesting now we have wearables that can give us a report card in the morning. So I wear this ring, it's called an Oura, O-U-R-A ring. And it has little teeny sensors in the inside. And it picks up on my heart rate. And it tells me in the morning how much time I spend dreaming, how much time in deep sleep, which is when you clean your brain of all that amyloid plaque and the tau protein and all that nasty stuff, which, by the way, is not the culprit. It's the side effect of a brain that can't clean itself. So that's called Alzheimer's disease. So if you get one of these gizmos, or if you already have an Apple Watch, or a Fitbit, or a Garmin watch, you will be able to track your sleep at night. And then you'll be able to see what effect it has. If you go to bed an hour earlier, or an hour later, or you have a couple glasses of wine before you go to bed, or you forget your progesterone at night, or whatever it is, you can see what makes your sleep better and keep doing that, because one of the worst things about getting older is not getting restful sleep. And that's really dangerous for brain health. So I believe that hormones, the ones that nature put in our bodies, not the ones that a chemist invented in a back room 50 years ago, are really beneficial for us, and they keep us healthy. This world is very different than the world our grandparents lived in, and our activity level is different, and our food quality is different. So we need all the help we can get. So I've been taking bioidentical hormones for now 28 years. And I'm going to keep taking them until the FDA pries them out of my cold dead hands. And I invite you to do the same. Bioidentical hormones are safe in the right hands. Most doctors are afraid of them because they didn't learn about them in med school. They stopped teaching hormones after that Women's Health Initiative study in 2002, which now they've looked back at it, and the slight increase in breast cancer was from the chemical progesterone, not real hormones. So don't let them say hormones are dangerous. Why would our young people have so much hormone if they were dangerous to us? Nature doesn't do that. Nature doesn't make mistakes. So used appropriately, hormones can benefit you and change your life. Okay, and then finally last month we did a longevity. So I'm not going to spend much time on that because it's all the things I've just been talking about. So ditto, take good care of yourself. The machinery and the energy will last a long, long time. So now I did put this in one of the talks, I don't remember which, but I think it's a really important concept. Dr. Reckeweg, Hendrik or Hedwig or something, was a homeopath. And in homeopathy, you use natural substances that are very diluted, very much diluted, so there's no chemistry involved. It's all energy imprint in the vehicle, which is usually water or alcohol. And he found out that there is a progression of disease which you can interrupt at any point short of death and turn it around and go backwards. So if you have a certain symptom and then you go on and progress your disease and the symptom goes away, when he would treat that person, he would regress them. They would have the symptom come back again. So I know you can't read this. If you want to have a copy of this talk and this in it, but you can write down Reckeweg and find it on the internet. This is so interesting. That symptom would come back and then it would disappear as you got healthier and healthier. So I'll pick one here, for example. So and a lot of these are homeopathic descriptors, so they're not what you're used to, but I'll try to translate. So phase one is when you're really trying to wash out the aggravating condition. So for example, you've been exposed to a cold virus, you don't even know yet, but you start to get, your nose is running a lot and you're sneezing. That's the body trying to rid itself of the pathogen. So that's phase one, is excessive sweating, excessive diarrhea, excessive urination. It's the body trying to rid itself. So then phase two would be inflammation, like laryngitis, like pharyngitis, colitis. Inflammation is the body's response when it's sending in the troops. And it consists of rubor, redness, dolor, pain, calor, heat, and turgor, which is swelling. So that's how we medical students remember it. So that's what inflammation is like. And that's the next step. So you get a stuffy nose with a cold after you've had all that sneezing and runny nose. The third phase is when things begin to grow around the toxin or the offending substance. So nasal polyps, for example, or colon polyps, for that matter, when they go in and do a colonoscopy and they tell you they found a polyp, it's not cancer, but it's halfway there. So find out why. And it may well be you're constipated and the toxins are in contact with that part of your gut for too long. So this is how we turn things back and turn them around. Then phase 4 becomes inside the cell. Everything so far has been outside the cell, has been in the tissues, in the blood. And now we start to see, so liver damage, we have, let's see, find one that relates. Myocarditis, where the heart muscle is weak and it can't pump properly. Weakened bone, early signs of cancer, so precancerous lesions. And then next in line is phase 5, which is, so the heart attack happens here. Atrophy, so atrophic rhinitis, weakened bone, things like that. And then phase 4 is cancer. So cancer doesn't fall out of the sky from bad luck. Cancer develops over years, and at any point you can interrupt that progression. So this puts the power back in your hands, which is what's most exciting about the good medicine that I practice, because my patient is not my vassal or my servant or the one that I have to get mad at if they don't follow instructions. My patient is the captain of their own ship, and I'm just part of the crew. So that's very empowering for people. But it's a shift, it's a turnaround. It's not what you get from most doctors. Okay, so now here's a little bit of a reading list. And I'll leave this up for a while. So I read that Radical Healing book, wow, 30 years ago. And then I met Rudy Ballantyne. He was still practicing in New York City. And he was an amazing guy. He was a psychiatrist originally. And he had lived in India for a few years. And it turns out that people who live in India generally learn a different way of looking at things, including health. So the hospitals in India have a homeopathic wing as well as a medical wing. So he came back with a very different idea of human beings and what we're capable of. So I shook his hand, and you know, as serendipity would have it, I left his building, was crossing the street, and there was a pile of money in the middle of the street with no identifying, you know, ownership. $80 I found on the ground. So you know something good really happened there. And it really changed my life. Everybody got that wants to take a picture? All right, you can get the whole talk. All right, and this is one of my paintings. So I like to marry magic and science. So this is alchemy and chemistry is the name of the painting. And it's alchemy who's doing all these magic transformations in the background. And her son, chemistry, who's playing with blocks and totally ignoring her. So she's turned lead into gold. She's dropping stones in there, and they're coming back as butterflies. And there are, of course, the psychedelic mushrooms on the ground in front of her. So then I have a question for you. So this is my proposal for the next 6 months. I left one out because I want you to tell me what you want me to talk about. And at this point, so that's our email, right? Okay. So front desk at bestmedicine.us. Send us your suggestions for the month of November, and let's see what we can put together. And if you don't care, we can do another one of the Q&As. Or we could take August off the calendar. Okay, so now it's your turn. Go ahead and ask your questions. I'm here for you. Nobody has a question.
Someone that has high cholesterol, any recommendation for that?
Sure. So the question is, what about high cholesterol? Because that's the first thing that your cardiologist will do. He'll take out a sledgehammer and whack that mole, which is cholesterol. And why does he do that? Because he's been taught that cholesterol is the end-all of heart disease. And he has a tool, happens to be a pharmaceutical that keeps you coming back for more, that can lower cholesterol. So here's what I think. Cholesterol is the Band-Aid. If there's no wound, you don't need a Band-Aid. You can have 20 boxes of Band-Aids. If you have a wound, one Band-Aid is sufficient. So the wound is inflammation in your coronary arteries. If you don't have inflammation, you don't need, it doesn't matter what your cholesterol is. So if you have risk factors, so he should be testing C-reactive protein, CRP, usually high sensitivity CRP or HSCRP, which is a measure of inflammation. If yours is more than 3, you've got inflammation. And it's more important to find out why and get rid of that inflammation than to take the statin. So, right. And if your cardiologist is not testing CRP, fire that cardiologist and get someone smarter. So, high cholesterol happens usually in our second half of life. And why? Not because you're genetics, because you've had the same genetics all your life, but because your hormones have gone down. So hormones, sex hormones, steroid hormones, are made from cholesterol. So the liver is not seeing those hormones coming in, and the liver thinks, well, maybe the ovaries will wake up if I make more cholesterol. But guess what? That doesn't happen. So you make more and more and more cholesterol, and your dose of statin goes up and up and up. So the other reason is your thyroid isn't working well. When your thyroid is low, you need iodine, you don't need a statin. And if you go on iodine, watch your cholesterol come down. If you go on hormones, watch your cholesterol come down. Because the body is not stupid. It's trying to correct an imbalance. But it can't, because those ovaries are never going to wake up. So you got to find someone who's knowledgeable and will give you bioidentical hormones. At the very least, and this isn't really good enough, but it's a good start, go to the health food store and get iodine and get topical progesterone, which you can get without a prescription, and a little pregnenolone wouldn't hurt either. So I'll tell my famous story. I was practicing in Naples, and a woman comes in with her husband. The husband was the patient, but she had to come in with him because he couldn't remember his name. The guy had been a college professor, and he couldn't think straight. And I looked at his recent labs. His cholesterol total was 98. So I get nervous when it's down around 140. His was 98. The brain needs cholesterol. Every cell in your body uses cholesterol for the cell membranes. So you can't live without it. So I called the guy's cardiologist. I said, did you know that this patient's total cholesterol is 98? And the guy said to me, that's where I want it. And he slammed down the phone. That was it. And sadly, the people never came back. So you got to make a choice here. You're going to hear of something very different in this room today than you hear from your regular doctor. I think They're still not teaching this stuff in medical school. They don't teach nutrition. Why not? Isn't that kind of fundamental to your health? Shouldn't they be teaching that? But they don't. We skip from normal, which is the very first year of medical school, immediately into illness, the second year of med school, and we never look back. The goal is not to help you become normal. The goal is to keep you coming back for your next prescription. And then the prescription that treats the side effects of the first one, and the prescription that treats the side effects of the second one, and on, until you're a walking zombie and your liver can't handle it anymore. And we see that every day around.
You take DHEA, is that a good hormone?
DHEA for some people is a good hormone. DHEA is a little dicey. DHEA is made in the adrenals, so it shouldn't go away like the other ones. And it can make people irritable because it turns into testosterone. So dosing is an issue. I've seen a lot of doctors, even functional doctors, put women on 25 milligrams or 50 milligrams of DHEA, and it's just not appropriate. 5 milligrams for a woman is fine. Men can handle 25 or 50, but not women. So that one I would ask your doctor to test your levels and see if you need it.
Another thing, sorry, if you had calcification in your heart arteries, is that?
So heart calcifications, how would I treat that? Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting because calcifications mean that that plaque has solidified. So it's less dangerous than the plaque that's soft and can break off and cause a stroke. But it's not good either. So you want to know how much compromise that artery has. So you don't have to do invasive arteriograms anymore. You can ask for a CT angiogram or a CTA to see what your coronary arteries look like. So in some cases, it may be necessary to put in a stent because you're so far down that progression that there's really no other way. But if you're not that far, bump up your exercise. Do your endurance training. Get a little bit stronger, a little bit longer every day, and make your heart work a little bit harder. That will, it may not open that artery, but it will cause collaterals to form. And you'll have better blood flow because you're asking more of your heart. And so your heart will step up. So eat right. Don't forget your quality protein when you're doing that because we need that muscle mass. The heart needs hormones too. Anyway,
Needs what?
hormones, particularly testosterone. So DHEA might be a good idea in that case, but again, I would test that first. And then chelation can help those people too, because calcium is a metal. And the chelating agent sees the calcium in the artery first. It'll pull it out, and then it'll trade it in the tissues, say for a lead atom in the bone marrow. So chelation may be a good way to treat that.
Oral or IV?
IV. Yeah, because it's not, if you take it by mouth, it doesn't have the potency as if you just stick it directly into the bloodstream. Okay, anybody else have questions? Come on. Pat.
As far as our cholesterol is concerned, C-reactive protein, so you're saying that it's inflammation that is really the cause,
Yep.
and the statin only puts a Band-Aid on it and doesn't get at the cause unless you find out why you're inflamed
Exactly.
and deal with the inflammation.
Right. So I'm going to repeat that because that's a profound insight for the listening audience in La La Land. So Pat just said the truth. Taking a statin is like putting a Band-Aid over the check engine light in your car without opening the hood and seeing what's the problem. So the real problem is inflammation, not cholesterol. And if you don't address the cause of inflammation, you're going to progress your disease. So you've got to find out what's causing inflammation, get rid of it, and work backwards. Yes.
I agree. But inflammation, is it different in different people? I mean, what causes inflammation in me as opposed to you, as opposed to someone that their coronary artery, their scan is lower or higher, or we're aging? Because I think that is what ages us, is inflammation, but it's different in every body. So how do you know? Yes,
Well,
diet is and prevention, but what do you feel like? Do you test specifically for?
Of course. Sure. So that's the key. Each individual is different. I might get heart disease, you might get mental
Cancer.
dementia or cancer or whatever. The expression is different in each of us. And, you know, we're infinitely different genetically and our lifestyles and whatnot. But the pathway to getting there is the same. So, you know, that's why there are a million books out there. What causes inflammation? So it's all the things that I've outlined here. Poor diet, crappy food. So our kids are inflamed a lot, and that's why they're nervous and they're anxious and they can't focus, and they get fat or they get skinny or they eat or they don't eat. It's because of neuroinflammation and looking at screens all the time. So poor diet and toxic food. And then there's inactivity, because what happens to a body that doesn't move? It degenerates. It can't be healthy. You're not building. You're only breaking down. So those are three causes that are totally within your purview to fix. And then we've got toxic exposures, some of which are unavoidable, but the ones that bioaccumulate, like the heavy metals, we can get them out. We can get them out of you, we can't get them out of the environment. But, you know, I try to tell people, you're probably going to need one chelation treatment, IV, per year of life that you've been on this planet.
Do you do that?
I would if I had access, and I did when I had access.
Well, if somebody wanted to get a chelation therapy treatment once a month, once a year, who do we go to?
It's not once a year. It's one per year of life. So you don't want to do it once a year.
So I'm 84, I should have,
Well, that's a best guess. So what we actually do, there is a place here, the Da Silva Institute, that does chelation. Da Silva Institute. D-A, capital S-I-L-V-A. And they do it the way I do it. So what is done is you're given a treatment. You get your IV chelating agent. It pulls a certain amount out, and then they ask you to do a urine test. So you capture some of what's coming out. It's sent to the lab. The lab says, oh, you're high in lead and mercury and arsenic and cadmium. And so you start doing your treatments. You do 10 treatments over the course of maybe 5 weeks. On the 10th treatment, you do the test again. You capture some urine and you see where you're at. We cannot tell how much total is in your body. We can only tell that it's still coming out. So if it's still coming out, we do another 10 treatments. So it's stepwise, you get there. And then after that, it's maybe 5 to 10 treatments a year. Good question. I'm not done with your question.
no, go ahead, I'll wait.
Yeah, so another cause of inflammation is chronic illnesses. So infections, so gut infections, which have all sorts of names that are just descriptors, colitis and irritable bowel and gastritis and this itis and that itis that don't tell you anything about what's really causing it. You've got to look at the bacteria in the gut. So that's just in the case of the gut. Chronic viral illnesses like Epstein-Barr, like COVID, long COVID, and many others, herpes, and the one that causes shingles, varicella, zoster, and Lyme disease, and those sorts of things can cause chronic infections, chronic inflammation. Diabetes can cause chronic inflammation because your high blood sugar is inflammatory. So again, eating the wrong foods. Diabetes, again, doesn't fall out of the sky. Type 2 diabetes is earned. So you can unearn it by rolling back your diet, find a good nutritionist, and work with them and get rid of your diabetes. There are sensors now that you can wear all the time that will tell you your minute-by-minute blood sugar.
CGBs, right?
Yeah.
But they're expensive.
No, they're not.
No, they're not? Oh.
No, $80 will get you 4 weeks.
Oh.
So I don't think you have to
need a
go by
script?
insurance. You need a script. So, but don't let them tell you can't have it because your insurance won't pay.
Okay.
I'm willing to pay for it. Here's a
Okay.
check.
Okay.
But, and this is an educational tool.
Right.
This is totally worth it.
And what is it that can cost $80?
Continuous glucose monitor.
Glucose.
So when you eat something within that next hour, you can see how your sugar goes
That's
up.
right.
and
Where does
down,
your
so you
sugar
know.
go? And it keeps track even overnight. And it'll wake you up if your sugar drops too low. So it can be a lifesaver too if you have diabetes and you're using insulin and you don't know really
Well,
what's
wouldn't
going
it be a good idea to use pre-diabetes, like before?
I like to put it on anyone that's
Right.
eating badly. If somebody already knows how to eat, it may not be necessary, but those are the people that want it. And the people that are eating badly don't really want to know because they don't want to change.
But that's where the education comes in.
That's the education
And the
tool.
knowledge.
So it's not me telling them this is what you need to eat. It's your body is telling you that it can't handle that much sugar at one time.
Right.
So try not eating that much pasta or, ice cream or whatever it is that's their drug of choice. And make no mistake, sugar is addictive, maybe more so than heroin.
So wouldn't you agree then that it's about education, and if we don't teach our children, what did we learn? I mean, if I didn't want to learn on my own about health and nutrition, what was I taught in school? Like you said, with doctors, they're not taught about prevention because there's no money in broccoli. For the
Exactly.
big pharma. So we have to teach our children
Good luck with
the
that.
difference between a Cheeto and a carrot.
Good luck with that.
But isn't that what, then we wind up
Certainly.
here where
But
we've
like I
got all
said
this
at the beginning,
information?
common sense is all too uncommon. So you can try, and maybe they'll remember later, but then they may get it right away, but they may not. If there's a horrible example in your family, they're more likely to get it. If somebody had the diabetes syndrome, and in surgery we call it the salami operation,
Mm.
because first you cut off the toes, and then you cut off the foot, and then you cut off the leg, etc., etc. So, if they have a horrible example, they may get it sooner. But very often it takes the cosmic 2x4 to wake people up. And just telling them isn't going to be enough.
Because they don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And all your friends are doing this and that. And pizza tastes great. And it's washed down with 3 Coca-Colas. And
But that's the thing, if children don't know, young people or even adults don't know what the end result is of it. I mean, when I was smoking, had I been exposed to a lung with lung cancer, I think I would have gotten maybe like oh crap, that could happen to me. That's what I'm doing to my body. But I didn't know that.
I don't
It was
disagree.
may be hazardous to your health. The doctors were smoking, and that's how old I am. I mean, they smoked. So, you know, if you don't know the result of what you're doing, it's very hard to change those patterns. Of
I agree,
eating.
education is more a part of health than anything any doctor can do.
And that's why I'm here listening to you, because
Okay.
that's what you're doing. You're
Thank you.
educating.
That's what I'm trying,
But
so.
you are.
We're putting all this up on our website and on YouTube and Facebook, excuse me, and other places, little snippets to kind of attract people that are interested in learning.
Right.
So kudos to you guys, you're here. So whatever you get out of this, you don't have to buy all of it. You don't have to buy half of it, but take the nugget that works for you, that you came here to hear, and use it and work with it. And what is in your capacity to change, do so. You'll never regret getting healthier.
No.
So,
Another question?
where that lady in the back was right.
3 short questions. I try not to do anything really toxic or inflammatory. What do you think about the contrast dye in MRI? I've heard it.
So it's gadolinium, the contrast dye in MRIs. What do I think about that as a
Yeah.
toxin? You know, in medicine, there's always a risk-benefit ratio. So it turns out gadolinium can be removed with chelation.
Okay.
So if you go next day and get chelated,
Next day.
well, any time, it's not leaving your body anytime soon.
Oh, see, I'm afraid to do that.
Don't be afraid. Do it. I mean, if you need the information, do it.
And how do you get rid of chronic viruses?
Haha, now that's the tough question. Chronic virus, how do you get rid of chronic viruses? So there are certain supplements that can help. Olive extract is one of them. I'm not thinking right away, but maybe someone can help me out with this.
I'll ask you when I see you.
IV ozone is a great thing.
I'm doing hyperbaric, does that help?
Hyperbarics can help. Yes. So, you know, again, you need to work with somebody who can follow what's happening to you.
I just started
Methylene,
with you. I was with you one time.
okay. Methylene blue can help, and ivermectin might help, and sauna can help, and red light therapy can help, which, by the way, sunshine is the best source of red light and every other kind of light. So don't be afraid. We evolved with that star. That is not something to fear. It's something to dose appropriate to your skin color and what your skin does when it's exposed to the sun. So don't let a dermatologist frighten you out of your skin, because your skin needs the sunshine. So yeah, all of those therapies over time can really help. Enlisting your immune system instead of ignoring your immune system or damaging your immune system in the case of cancer. So it's crazy to knock out the evolutionary tool that is our immune system with chemotherapy and hope that you kill the cancer before you kill the patient, which is really the way it goes, sadly. So you want to enhance the immune system. You want to do the best you can. Anyway, so that's my, in a nutshell, answer to that very complicated question. Okay.
Then what is your recommendation for vitamin D and also for protein per day?
Okay, so the current thinking for vitamin D levels is that it should be between 60 and 80. And, you know, the range of normal, so-called range of normal, is not optimal. So the range of normal goes all the way down to 30. And that's inadequate for keeping you healthy. Your immune system, of course, requires vitamin D, which is actually a hormone that depends on cholesterol. So no cholesterol, no vitamin D. And if you're not getting enough sun, take your supplement. And the supplement range that I've found works in most adults is 5,000 international units a day, which generally equates to 15 to 20 minutes in the sun without sunscreen in a bathing suit for a white person. Black people can take the sun much better. They need longer to make vitamin D because they're protected with the pigment in their skin and we're not. So that's 20 minutes, no sunscreen. But if you know that you burn quickly, acculturate yourself. Do 5 minutes first, or 5 minutes on each side, and then 10 minutes on each side. Build up a little pigment in your skin. We call it a tan. It looks great, makes you look healthy, and it protects you from sunburn. So be smart, know your own body, and listen to your own body. It's not the sun that you get today that gives you skin cancer. It's the burns that you got when you were a little kid that give you skin cancer now, and vitamin D will help prevent it. Sir?
Is there a way to increase your platelet count in your blood?
So how to increase your platelet count? So low platelets are a big problem. They can come from condition where the spleen eats your platelets or it doesn't make enough platelets. So I would guess there's a toxin lurking in there. Very likely a heavy metal. So I would go for chelation first. You're never going to hurt yourself by getting metals out of your body. So will it fix the problem? I don't know. But that's where I would look first. Yes.
Can you reverse osteoporosis?
Can you reverse osteoporosis? Provided you're still alive, yes. So the thing is, when your hormones go away, your bones begin to degenerate because it takes a whole orchestra of hormones to keep you healthy, including your bones. So vitamin D is one, vitamin K is another. Progesterone and estrogen, maybe yes, maybe no on the estrogen. You don't necessarily need estrogen, but you do need progesterone. Testosterone is good for building muscle and bone. And men can use progesterone just like women can use testosterone, but in yin-yang dosage. So the men need a lot of testosterone and a little bit of progesterone. The women need the opposite. So it's an art, but definitely yes, it takes a while. The first thing that has to happen is the bone breakdown stops. So that can take 6 months to a year if you're on a protocol. And then the bone starts growing again, and it grows in a natural way. And the chemicals that they like to give you to make your bone look better make brittle bone. So there's no improvement in fracture rate. So you asked a very important question. You know that 30% of hip fractures will result in fatality in an older person. So that's a very, very high death rate, and you don't want to be one of those.
So what about the DEXA scan? Do you?
So DEXA scan, what is the validity and the use of DEXA scanning? I think that one of the things that modern medicine does well is gather information, but then it doesn't know what to do with that information. So, okay, you got osteoporosis, take this drug. So you take the drug, and you have side effects, and your bone looks better, but then you slip and fall and you have a hip fracture anyway. So the DEXA scan is appropriate, but the treatment is not. So you always want to work with the body and support the body in the most natural way possible.
What's the best treatment for it?
So proper diet, get enough minerals, vitamin D, vitamin K, progesterone, proper exercise, which means stressing your muscles. Anything that grows muscle will grow bone. But if you have osteoporosis, I beg you, get a trainer. Get someone who's experienced with older people with brittle bones, because the last thing you want to do is hurt yourself. That will set you back even more. So exercise, diet, hormones, sunshine, movement, what else? Clean water, clean food, you know, it's the same mantra every day.
And protein,
Protein, yes, excuse me.
how
That's-
much?
How much protein? So again, the thinking is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. Clean protein means that those animals shouldn't be eating something that you wouldn't eat. So get your, well, you might not want to eat grass, but you want to eat the cow that ate the grass, not the cow that ate the GMO corn and wheat and soy, or the chickens. So pasture raised eggs. I have 7 chickens at home. They're only 2 months old, so they're not laying yet. But I'm hoping to get, 5 to 7 eggs a day at one point. They're pretty happy.
Because I think eggs are good for you, do you agree?
I agree, eggs are
Vegetarians,
wonderful.
It's a whole
Egg
food.
yolk, yes, egg yolk is probably the most perfect food there is.
Yes.
But again, it depends what those chickens are eating.
Right. And whey protein, I mean, a grass-fed whey protein also for
Yes,
a
if you
shake?
haven't developed a whey intolerance. Ask your body. But whey protein theoretically is a good source. So, and also amino acids, Bragg's aminos are broken down amino acids. So they're the building blocks of protein. And if you've got all the building blocks, you can build anything. Ask Lego.
How important is it to get the mercury out of your teeth?
Okay, so how important is it to get the mercury out of your teeth? Another very good question.
Everybody has it in them.
So mercury is soft, right? It's liquid at room temperature. So it's soft in your fillings as well. So that means when you chew, when you brush, when the dentist cleans your teeth, you're getting a dose of mercury every day. So it is important. So, but it's also super important to go to the right dentist. Because if a dentist just goes and drills your fillings out, that mercury will vaporize and everybody in the room will get a big dose. And I have treated numerous dentists for mercury toxicity. So you want to find a holistic, toxin-free, biologic dentist, they call themselves all different names, who understands that and protects you and protects themselves and their staff from that mercury as it's outgassing. And then you should go get chelated. Even if you don't get your fillings taken out, you're still chelating out many years of exposure. So it'll be a long time before you replace that level of toxin, even if you keep your fillings. And it matters how big the fillings are, how old they are, how large the surface is that you're actually grinding on. So the answer is preferably yes, but don't let it stop you.
I have some questions.
Yes.
Or emailing.
Okay, so this is from previous questioners. Okay, so the first question I don't know the answer to, and that is, what is the new blood test that can detect Alzheimer's? I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. It's probably tau protein or apoprotein, I don't. Well, there's a blood test for a genetic variant called ApoE. ApoE4 gives you a higher risk of Alzheimer's. If you have 2 ApoE4s, your risk of Alzheimer's is much higher than the general population. So it goes from about 3 or 4% to about 15 to 20%. So it is not a death sentence, even that. And doing all the things that we talked about here can ensure that you never get Alzheimer's. In the case of the brain, all of those good things plus sleep, regular beneficial sleep. And you need to know, because you can't know if you're getting deep sleep unless you track it. Okay. Is this blood test readily available? I can't answer that because I don't know what test it is. Yeah, so detecting Alzheimer's is a problem. It really can only be definitely diagnosed at autopsy. So you don't want to wait. So we all have risk of dementia. So why not do everything in advance to prevent it? You're all smart enough to be here now. So review your notes, get one of those books that we looked at here. And, oh, I didn't even list the one, The End of Alzheimer's by Dale Bredesen. The End of Alzheimer's. So that tells you 50 different things to do to prevent Alzheimer's. Once you have it, it's too late. Prevention beats rescue in every case. So we're talking about prevention here.
Dr. Carroll?
Yes, ma'am.
My neighbor just came back with blood work, and her doctor told her she immediately needed to go on a statin. And she had high C-reactive protein and high cholesterol, and also there was some plaque that showed up in her blood work. So she said, I don't believe in medication. She says, but in this case, you have to do something. So I'm going to put you on the lowest dose, is what she told her. So I said to her, did the doctor say anything about inflammation, which causes all that? And she said, no. So I'm thinking that if you were her doctor, would you say go after the inflammation?
Of course.
And
So-
what is the biggest thing she can do for the inflammation?
Okay, so let me repeat your question for the listening audience. So the question was, my neighbor went to her doctor. She got a verdict of your cholesterol's too high and your C-reactive protein is high. The doctor said nothing about inflammation.
And also there was plaque in some of the,
Well, so that's already somewhere along the
Right.
disease progression. So the answer that I would give first is go see your dentist, find out if you have any gingivitis, any root canals, any toxic fillings, get that corrected. That may be the most common cause of inflammation in most people. Do you have any gut issues? Do you have diarrhea or constipation? Are you sequestering toxins and heavy metals? We could do an exhaustive search for inflammation for all the causes that we've talked about so far and address that. But if you need to get your cholesterol down, take niacinamide, 500 milligrams twice a day, and bergamot twice a day. The herb bergamot, well, it's a citrus fruit. And don't take the statin prescription, but find out what's causing the inflammation is the most important thing. And nobody ever thinks, and I didn't mention it, chronic sinusitis is also a problem for a lot of people. It often comes from allergies. It often comes from mold exposure, either now or in the past. You can nebulize with silver, liquid silver or hydrogen peroxide, and get rid of the infection if there's an infection in your sinuses without enlisting any antibiotics or any doctors. So yeah, so everything we've talked about is a candidate to be looked at. Okay. so the fourth question was also about Alzheimer's, and what would we do to slow or stop the progression, and I just answered that. So hormones, sleep, proper nutrition, and exercise. Sounds simple, but it isn't. Good luck finding a doctor. Here I am. So as you know, I don't ask for payment for this. I love doing them, and I appreciate your coming out. But that little purple basket over there is for the doggies and the little pussycats of the Humane Society. So if you feel inclined, put a little something in there, and I'll make sure that they get it. And thank you very much. Next month, so I think I did that. No. Oh. What I propose for future topics are these. And November is open, so send us a little email at frontdesk@bestmedicine.us and tell us, I won't be here in August, don't do one in August, or give me a topic for November, or both, or whatever you like.
Question. Thermography for breast,
Okay, thank you
I'm
for
due for
asking.
my mammogram, and I read that it's really a better.
Thermography
Thermography.
for breast screening. So I appreciate that question because I'm about to get a thermography camera because I totally believe in it. I had it in a previous practice. And number one, it does not give you ionizing radiation. Number two, it doesn't hurt. So you're not getting radiated year after year, which, you know, one has to question, are they creating what they're looking for? It will show things up many years before they show up on a mammogram, much closer to the initiation of the problem than the mammogram. And you don't even need a doctor's prescription for that. It's like going to a photographer and just saying, I want breast screening. It's useful for many other conditions in the body. It will show inflammation in your mouth, in your sinuses, in your hands and feet, and other areas of your body. So that may be a good tool for your friend to use. And it's not that expensive. Sorry?
When are you going to be getting the machine?
That depends on my help, so she's not here today. Sorry?
Denver's interested in getting that done. I've already had numerous thermography over the last 20 years.
Wonderful.
I haven't had a mammography in 30 years because I know how negative they are.
Yes. So what I would say is please send us an email to this very email. Tell us you're interested, and I'll put you on the waiting list and let you know as soon as we get it. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 months. But, you know, if you go elsewhere beforehand, I won't be mad, but come to us next year.
How often do you think you should get thermography done?
Once a year,
Once a year?
just like a mammogram. Yeah, so the initial test is 2 tests 3 months apart. Because one of the things we look for on thermography is change. So new blood vessels are warm, and as they grow, they change and they look different on the thermogram. So you want to do the first one, that's your baseline, and after that it's once a year.
The mammography did find my breast cancer 12 years ago, so I am a survivor and thriver, and had a mastectomy, so I'm due every year. They do a mammogram on just the one breast. I'm due this month, next month. If you don't, I guess I'm asking, could I wait and not do the usual, because they do the mammogram and then they do a sonogram? Because I would wait to do.
Can you wait? Yes, of course. You can wait, but a lot of doctors respect thermography as an adjunct to mammograms. So I'm not gonna tell you not to do a mammogram, that's gonna be your
Okay,
choice.
right.
If you love your doctor, you'll do what your doctor says, but you can ask your doctor, couldn't I do it every 2 years now? I'm that far out from my cancer, and do thermography every year.
Right,
So
right.
negotiate.
And just one last question about that. Is that pay, does insurance pay for the, no, so will that be
It's
somewhere?
gonna be about 150 per.
$150.
150.
Oh, okay. Because they don't cover Medicare, they cover the sonogram part of the mammogram and
How much is
anyways,
that?
I don't know, but I wind up paying $100 and something out of pocket, and they only do one breath, so I say they should get half price. Yeah. I mean, they're billing me, whatever, but, okay.
Sadly,
Thank you.
medicine
Thank you.
is a business,
Yes, yes.
very much so, and they have a great business model. Keep you coming back,
Well, let's sick here. not
keep
so-
you frightened, keep you a little bit sick, keep you coming back. It's the subscription model.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank